Have you ever been doing something and you think, oh, I'll do this, it'll take a quarter of an hour, half an hour, and like 2 hours later you put it down and you go back the next day? You know, I'm sure some of you's done it. Well, it's the same with this blooming Weathervane. Don't matter, I'm doing it for something to do, am I? But I think I've showed you that. Right, that's the cross for the top of the Weathervane. And using the belt sander today, I've got the letters done. Right, I think I've shown you these. S, which you can see. That's all finished and polished up, you see. Now all the edges sanded up. And the E, it's all done. And the N, again, that's all done. And of course the W, right, and that's all done. But you know, I was hoping to finish that today. I really was. I thought, oh, I'll plenty of time. Well, believe it or not, just to sand those up that were already cut out and finish the other bit. I know I'm not the fastest worker, I'm probably get the record for the slowest worker now, but oh, I was an hour and a half and I'd had enough, right, so we had to stop. Anyway, I have a couple of little stories to tell you. I'll tell you what, let's go something a bit more comfortable. Well, my first story is about this t-shirt. Nice, isn't it? I don't know if you can, if I can bend down and you can see it properly. Yeah, I think you can see it there. Well, my friend that I think I'm sure has now passed, and his friend, it's a good story this, she was a rich woman, a very rich woman, and she married a very rich Frenchman. And when they met, my friend was this is a long time ago, my friend was a trainee solicitor in London, and this woman was a risk taker. And her boyfriend, she had a boyfriend that was a real life 1960s spy. Anyway, I think it was in Germany, I'm not sure, but they got caught. Well, he got a long time in prison, but because my friend was a trainee solicitor, him and his friends managed to extradite her to this country, back here, and saved her from, who knows, you know, 20 years in jail, something like that. So that's how they got to know each other. Anyway, as I say, she was a very rich woman, and she married a very rich Frenchman. I mean, she was so rich, she didn't only have a Ferrari, and she didn't only have a stable full of Ferraris, a garage full of Ferraris. They had their own Ferrari racing team at Le Mans. And this shirt is one of the genuine pit t-shirts that she had made. And my friend said, when he gave me them, he gave me two actually, but I haven't got the other one now. But he had this one, he says, well, I don't know, he said, she paid £100 for some ashtrays and they were nothing more than what you would get in a hotel. You know, I mean, she had literally super rich, right? This is what the super rich do, and they still do today. I'm sure you've read the stories, same as I have, of the super rich kids that show off by setting fire to money. Idiots. Not my fault. Anyway, I said, oh, I've got 2 nice shirts for you, he said. And this is one of them. And I said, well, oh, I said, I don't know. He says, it probably cost as much as my car. So it's nice to have some nice expensive clothing, isn't it? You know, as a gift. So that's the story of the t-shirt, right? Now, I've another story. A long while ago this is, when I was young, growing up in my 20s, of a CA Bedford dormobile van, one with windows in. Now in those days, vans were restricted to 40 miles an hour. But because this had been a school minibus and had windows in, it wasn't unrestricted and there was no speed limits. Now, it must have been just a good one, because we had one later that was nowhere near as fast, but this blooming dormobile genuinely did 90 miles an hour indicated. It was very, very fast. So anyway, one night, it was while I was working reconditioning car engines, and we used to take them to Hull. We lived at Hullsby, and we had a shop that sold them, and he was our main customer. So we used this dormobile, and I had obviously a good time, because unfortunately my boss at the time had lost his licence, only through speeding in a mini pickup, I might add, because they were limited to 40 miles an hour. And so for a while it was a very pleasant job, because my job was to take these engines. Anyway, one night, I think it's 60 miles from New Holland Ferry, what was then, there's a bridge now, isn't there, the Humber Bridge, but it was when there was ferries, before the bridge. And I was in this CA Bedford dormobile, and I got off the ferry, and it was 5 minutes past 6. Now, I've never been bothered about television or anything. I'm not bothered about soap operas and things like that, but there was a soap opera on, an Australian soap opera, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it was on at 25 minutes to 7, and it was just like moving wallpaper to watch while I had my tea, because I used to go home and get my meal, and sit and watch it while I had my meal, and then I went out again in those days. And I said, this is a blooming long time ago. Anyway, coming off the ferry, I thought, wonder if I can get home in time. And so I put my foot down. Now, as I say, it was before speed limits, but I had to pass through a small town, Lincolnshire town, Louth. And no, I didn't keep the 30 miles an hour that night. Anyway, I made it, and I got in just as the theme tune was playing. So I averaged 60 miles an hour on Lincolnshire's normal roads, normal A roads, and a town, right? And I averaged 60 miles an hour in this CA Bedford. So that was a good drive, it really was. And I had the old units, it meaning there was 4 engines in the back, sloshing about, sliding from side to side. Anyway, a little bit later,
Got to mention, several months later, Carl's brother told him, he said, well, Carl told me, he said, well, yeah, I know you get on. He said, Well, my brother said he was following you in his E-Type and he couldn't keep up. That's absolutely
Anyway,
true.
A little bit later, and here's the story, I came to grief, didn't I? Nearest I've been, ever. What happened was, I was going again on the same run, and there were two, you can imagine the scene, there's two really sharp double bends, and then there's a dip with a crossroads in the bottom, and then you go up the dip the other side and round to two more double bends, like that. Well, I was thrashing along in this Bedford, of course, as usual, and I went over the crossroads and I went round the next bend and I had no drive. So I freewheeled up the hill and put my foot on the brakes. There were no brakes. So I pulled the handbrake on. There was no handbrake. Well, of course, if you're on a hill facing upwards and you've no drive and you've no brakes, the only way is downwards. So I thought, well, I can't negotiate these double bends and this crossroads, you know, backwards like this. So, well, it went back ever so fast to start with, which appeared to be fast. Anyway, there was a metal fence and I just turned the wheel and ran the back end of the Bedford Dormville into this metal fence, and the only damage was a very slight dint and a broken back light, so I sort of got away with that one. But that was something, and what happened was, and this is the point of the story, the half shafts, which are rear wheel drive, they're like drive shafts if you like, but the half shafts on old rear wheel drive vehicles drove from the differential, which was driven by a prop shaft from the engine in the front. And what happened was, because I've been thrashing about in this Bedford, I didn't know, of course, but they were held in by a sweated collar. Now, a sweated collar is like a big thick washer that is machined to be 2 or 3 thou undersize. And what they do, they heat it up and slide it on, and then when it contracts, it grips. Well, of course, because I've been thrashing about in this blooming Dormville, it had got hot, and the half shaft come out. That's what happened. Well, of course, it took the brake drum with it. It was drum brakes, right? Took the brake drum with it. So it came out the diff, so obviously, it's like if you got one wheel on ice and one wheel on the hard, you can't move. One wheel spins, right? So, I'd no drive and no brakes, and the only way was backwards, and that was a very slight incident as it turned out. But anyway, what happened was, it came out to me, Carl came out to me, and we tried it. He towed me out and we tried it, and the half shaft actually went back in again. So I drove it very steadily home, and it was only just out the diff. The splines were only just out the diff, and they went back in again, and I drove it very steadily home and they didn't come out again. So that was one adventure I thought I might just share with you. Hope you enjoy it. In a bit.